and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Guys, listen, as you know, we talk about all kinds of things on this show, and this month, we've dedicated this to moms. As we've said to all of you all along, is that too many times we, the world, dismiss moms when things are not happening the way they should. We drop everything in their laps instead of taking our time and taking, first of all, our part of the responsibility and assisting our mothers. So tonight, we will be talking with none other than Miss Lorrain Taylor, founder and CEO of 1000 Mothers. And we'll be discussing a variety of things, guys. As you know, too many times, so much stuff happens with our young men, and Miss Taylor will be addressing those things as well, and how she feels about the way our moms are being addressed and the way our moms are being blamed. Ms. Taylor, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Melvin. How are you today?
Well, listen, we are great and grateful that you've joined us, and we just want our audience to know on our background here. I know you can see that lovely, beautiful picture there. We're having problems with our video on our computers, so you won't get to see the present day. But believe me, guys, she's just as beautiful today as she is on that picture. So, Ms. Taylor.
Yes, sir.
The very first thing I'd like us to tackle, every time something happens, especially a crime, either committed or an alleged crime, is committed, or federal government, police officers, neighbors, etc. If that person is even thought to have something maybe as simple as a DWI, and something happens to that individual when he or she is being confronted by police, when he or she is being questioned or thought of by the neighbors, the first thing people like to do is to say, well, they're from a single parent home. And as a male and having a loving mother, I see that as an insult. Would you like to share your opinion with us, please?
Yes, that is an insult. I can understand why that could be an insult to you, coming from a home where there is the mother and the father present. We do know that the fact remains that the majority of the homes in the African American community that I know about, the majority of the mothers that I work with are single mothers like myself. I dealt with a 13-year marriage, off and on marriage, and it was not fun. So I had to decide what was best for the overall good of my family, including my children, to deal with domestic violence, to deal with abuse, being beat up on the outside and beat down mentally, emotionally, or to try and save myself and to save my children. However, there are families out there that I know of where the male is present, and we need to uplift the fathers and be thankful. And I'm always thankful for the men who have stepped up to the plate to keep the oath, for better or for worse. We know that in any relationship, there are going to be conflicts. I think that it's important, as you said, to address the problem in any situation, where we need to learn how to manage our anger, learn how to listen more, to hold space, and to understand that we are all God's little children from the same garden. We are not perfect. And we need to practice forgiveness and acceptance and all of those things to be the role model that our children need this day and time. They need both parents. And I don't think it's fair, as in my case, for the male, the father, to say, okay, you take my abuse, you take whatever I'm offering you, or I'm going to abandon the whole family. That takes a devastating effect on the children. And some of them never, ever recover. Many of them go to drugs and alcohol to try and deal with their pain. And it becomes a revolving door for the next generation.
An addendum to that question, what is your opinion, stemming from that question and your answer, as to why it seems to be so important for people, I'm talking generically, to jump out there with that, well, there's no dad in the home, but they never talk about individuals that have alleged and purposefully committed crimes where a father is in the home. Now, we all have enough intelligence to understand that two productive parents is obviously much better than one. I mean, we all understand that. So we don't want to have someone waste our time saying, well, two parents are better than one. No, two productive parents are better than one. So, if you will, if you kind of touch on that as to what your opinion might be as to why we seem to ignore the fact that many young men and women, unfortunately, commit alleged crimes, etc., and no one bothers to mention the fact that a father is physically in the home.
Well, I don't know if I quite understand your question. So we have fathers in the home that are working hard to provide, to be that provider, to be that parent that the children need, to be that role model that our children need. And then we have the parents who are, like you said, not productive. And some are criminals and some are not. We live in a society today where anything is a crime. So when we talk about criminal, what is criminal and what is not, we have to go back to when the slaves were free, allegedly set free, and they were told that you are free except as punishable for a crime. That was according to the 13th Amendment. Everything was a crime. Beating was a crime. Drinking from the white folks' water fountain was a crime. So you jump out of what you call slavery back into slavery for committing a crime. And there is a movie that I heard of. It's called The Americas. So they are putting new laws on the book every day that impact our community. Some impact the Black community more adversely than the white community. What may be a crime for us is not a crime for them, or they may get a slap on the hand where the father in the home gets sent to jail. Life is taken away for the most part. He cannot get a job because now he has this brand. He's been branded on his record. Once you go to prison, it's like having a brand that you're now a slave. And so I'm very sensitive to those parents and so appreciative to the men who are dealing with this system that was seemed like where the cards have been kind of stacked against them. I can't say that for every case, but we want to see the glass half full and say thank you to the fathers who are staying there, who are taking care of their children. And if you do decide that you can no longer communicate effectively and that the home has become toxic, do not abandon your children. Your children need you, whether you are there or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. And as you share that, Ms. Taylor, many of us, and that's why I want to talk with you this evening as we speak globally, because we see so many various religions and what word am I searching for? Civic organizations, etc. We seem to have, and you've just explained it really well, differences when it comes to people of color, when it comes to how we're going to, if I can say, mediate the crime or the alleged crime or the act of the crime. But as a mother, and that's why I say I want to dedicate this time as we share that. When as a mom and you're sitting there and you see the disparity that's taking place, how does that affect you as a mom when you know whether there's a man in the house or not, that you are doing everything you can to rear your children in what the world say is in a proper manner, but you're still being maligned and made to feel guilty if in fact they go adverse to the home training, if I might call it training, that they received. How as a mom does that affect you?
It's very difficult to comprehend being a single parent, knowing that you have done everything in your power to train up the child in the way that he should go. Now, the Bible said, train up the child in the way that he should go. And when the child is old, OLD, he won't depart. But somewhere in the middle, the kids often go astray. And the parents, the mothers especially, feel so guilty when we lose a child to violence, or we lose a child, or when we lose a child to the system of prison or in to drugs. Is we feel we take on that burden, and I don't say that that's the right thing to do. But when you carry a child for 9 months and you do everything in your power to keep this child in school and on the right track, and he somehow get lost in the system, get lost in the world, become of the world, and get lost in Babylon, in the valley of the shadow of death, it's very painful. Whereas I lost my twin sons to gun violence, I lost them to the grave. They were on the right track. There are many mothers, of course, whose children were on the right track, but they got lost into drugs. They got lost into gang violence and other issues in life. It's very difficult on the mother, and we feel like we have to get up and collaborate. We have to go out there and we have to fight. I was the one fighting when I lost my children, knocking on the door of the police department. Somebody, please talk to me. Somebody help. It wasn't the father in this case. I don't understand that, but I know that's not the case in every home. I want to say thank you to those fathers who are there with their families. I just became a grandmother, and my son just sent me a video. I have one other son that's living, the little baby just rubbing on his face, and 2 months old, trying to get his attention. She loves the fact that her dad is there. She feels secure that her father is there. We need the fathers in the home. We do. But as mothers, we are not wired up to be the mother and the father. We're just not. And we need the fathers to be that role model, especially for the young men. Because when my son Gregory, my youngest son, was 12 years old, and I'm telling him what to do, and he came home one day, he had learned a new word. He was very intelligent with his vocabulary. Mom, I decided I don't want to do my chores anymore. In fact, Mom, I want to be emancipated. And I asked, what's that? What's emancipation? So I said, okay, come on. I didn't know how to handle that situation. I could have handled it better. I should have sat down and talked to him and said, I was just really frustrated and tired after working all day and being challenged by 3 little boys now becoming teenagers. I said, well, come on outside the door. Let me emancipate you. So I put him out the door and I locked the door. To this day, he hasn't forgotten that. That was the shock of his life. I think that we as mothers, we also have to be a little more sensitive, a little more understanding, and talk to our children and try and explain to them, this is what emancipation means. You have to pay your rent. But sometimes we're so frustrated. We're just at the top. We're number 10 as far as our anxiety and frustration, and we take action, and the action is not always effective. He remembered that. He never came to me again asking for emancipation.
I would imagine not. And you hit an excellent point. Is that why as a mother, and I know I'm asking a lot of whys, but as a mother, because I don't want to speak as a man, but as a mother, why do you feel, or do you feel that mothers are expected to be flawless in their processes and in their methods when it comes to rearing their children? I will say this before I ask you the answer. I have seen over and over and over, as an educator, as an administrator, as a man that works with young men and boys, girls, etc., is that over and over and over again, even in the school system, I'm sure you are aware, every time something happens with a child and things are not going well, excuse me, the first things we like to say is, well, it starts at home. Well, that's an oxymoron. We know it starts at home. So as a mom, and I'm asking these questions on purpose because I want our moms to hear from another mom. What does that say to you as a mother, again, when people make statements of that sort? What actually does that, or does it say anything to you at all? You may just brush it off your shoulders and keep going.
I'm a mother bearer. I'm a mother bearer. When it came to my children, I was there at the school. If anything happened, I wasn't thinking about calling the father, even when we were together. I remember my son, Albany, the oldest twin, came home from school one day and he ran and he looked in the mirror and he started screaming, I'm black! I'm black! I said, yes, you are black and you are handsome and you're an artist and you were smart, but I want to be white. I asked,
Wow.
what white? He said the white kids get treated better and they get to get their snacks first. Well, I was the grammar police at my house growing up and always correcting people. I started breaking some verbs. Them is my babies. Them is my baby. When I didn't talk to the father, I was at the school the next day. We as mothers, we are nurturers. I don't know what it is, but I guess the majority of the teachers who are female, I don't know if that is the case today. When I was going to school,
you are correct.
Yeah, so I guess they expect the mother to show up for some reason, and I did. I showed up, and I told that teacher, I said, I would sue you after I explained to her what my son said and his reaction to her discriminating against the African Americans in the class in this little small town called Alameda, this island in Alameda, California. I said, I would sue you, but rather let me come to your classroom and teach African American history. And that's what I did. In fact, the day that my sons were murdered, I was at a kindergarten school in Castro Valley teaching African American history. My whole goal now is not to be mad at the system, but to do my part as a mother to teach my son that it's okay to be Black. It's okay to be whatever color God gave you. It's about the content of your character. You want to know who you are. And I found an essay that he wrote when he was 13 years old. Now he's 10 years older, maybe 9 years old. I think he was 5 at the time. If I could be anyone, I would be myself, because I took it upon myself to start a television show to bring in African Americans who had been successful into this little town with the 1% African Americans, and to show them how to produce television, to show them the other side, that it's okay to be who you are.
Yes.
I'm going to go, my children were, don't bother my babies. Don't
now, as you share that, Ms. Taylor, as you share that, I hear you very loudly. And if we then can segue into that very question with all of the statement actually, with all of the disgruntledness about the 1619 project and the Lincoln Project and these kinds of things, in a mother's opinion, because a lot of times men are different. And let me say this, okay? I know I'm making a statement in the form of a question. I have a friend of mine that's a retired police officer who is African American. He actually lives in Dallas, Texas now. He gave me a call a little while back and wanted to know what was all the fuss about, and why are Black people pushing so hard to have this kind of stuff in the schools. And after I picked, all of my 500 pounds up off the floor, I said, you can't be serious. You and I were born right here in the Jim Crow South. We went through the forced integration.
Right.
We went from being classmates to having to be sent to separate schools and that kind of thing, even though living in the same neighborhood, etc. So I said we took part in the local parade where the kids at the Catholic school, where we were marching by, were aligned along the fence with that little song 2468. We don't want to integrate. I said, so are you? I'm serious. I said, are you actually asking me this question? So I stopped there and come back to you as a mom when your baby and you shared that you went and volunteered to teach Black history and that kind of thing. So what would you say, just being individual that you are, being the loving mother that you are, with to these individuals, regardless of race, creed, or color, that seem to have so much difficulty with all of American history being taught. What would you say to them?
I think they're really doing a injustice to themselves and to the next generation. We do know that America was built on on the religion called Christianity, which I practice. I practice Christianity, of course, and on the blood, sweat, and tears of our foreparents who were brought into this country in chains against their will, but they added so much. They brought so much, so many inventions. In fact, on February 8th, the day that I lost my twin sons, I was there teaching, and the first question I asked was, how many of you remember some of the inventions I taught you last year that were made by African Americans? And two hands were going up almost simultaneously. One was a little white girl and one was an Asian girl. So I asked the little white girl first, and she said, a black man invented the peanut butter. And I said, yeah, you're right. And the little Asian had her hand, she was waving so hard and looked at her and she said, and the jelly. So I had to leave the room and get my laughter out. I just laughed tears because I really did not know who invented the jelly at the time to say to this little Asian girl that you are right also. So I had to say to myself, Lorrain, if you're going to talk to these little smart kids, you know peanut butter and jelly goes together. So
right.
You need to find out. So the red light, the hair products, you name it, have been the light bulb. We just cannot walk anywhere in America and I see something that was invented by an African American, although we were brought over here as we cannot deny African American history. And for those who are still trying to keep it out of the ears of the beautiful little white kids. I just love all kids. I just love all babies. They smile. They're innocent.
Yes, they are.
It's a shame and it's a disgrace for anyone to say, no, we're not going to teach African American history.
Mm-hmm.
We are all from the same garden. And I can tell some of these grown people who have been indoctrinated to believe that they are better.
Yes.
I went applied for an apartment in Livermore, California, because I wanted to move. I got there one day, I got the right information. The next day, the woman who did not want to rent to African Americans, to an African American woman, gave me a new list of qualifications. And I said, I cannot qualify based on this list.
Yeah.
But the list that the man gave me yesterday, I qualify. So why are you giving me a list that will disqualify me? And after I got through talking with that lady, she was in tears. I said, I don't blame you for the way you think. I forgive you because you've been taught to think that you are better and that we are not all from God's special. We're not his special flowers. We're all God's special flowers, I told her, from the same garden. You love your complexion. I love mine. What percentage of African Americans are living here? And she said about 5. I said 5 out of 1,000. The reason they're not here is because you're giving them the wrong information. I told her I could write her and sue you because I know all about the rules. And this lady, she apologized. She cried and she cried. And for 6 months, she kept begging me to come to live at that place. But it's unfair for parents to say no to African American history. You cannot deny that we are part of history in this country, whether you like it or not. I'm sorry. You need to get over it because we are here. We are Americans of African descent, And while sometimes on the applications I'll put other, not because I'm denying that I have African in me or whatever else we're identified as African Americans. But the reason I put other is because when you put Black or African Americans, your file may just go in file 13.
Absolutely.
Because they are just that racist. I don't understand why we cannot all be Americans. When you go to France, they're all French, whether they're Black or white.
Mm-hmm. You know, excuse me. When you share that information, that in and of itself, if I might add before I ask you another question, actually, this is a question in the form of a statement. I've always been an activist, even from a young boy. And when I hear people say things like, well, that was then, and I'm not prejudiced, this, that, and the third, but I see you. You know, I see you. I see your actions. I see your activities. I hear the words that you share. And God forbid what you've already said, Ms. Jackson. You think you're better than me, and I ask people all the time. And so that's so simply because your skin is less melanated than mine.
That's crazy.
You think that automatically makes you better than someone. But I did. As a matter of fact, I had a guy, he was so mad. I think if he had a gun, he would have shot me. I said, but my ancestors been over here 400 plus years, and you still live in the same, and you live in the same neighborhood I do. And you had a 400-year start. So what does that say to you about you and your people and the other ones that live in this community? Oh, he was so upset. So that's why I say I'm saying this in the form of, you know, back in Jim Crow days, the older people would be so afraid that something was going to happen to you if you speak up. What would you say to me as a as a young African American boy that just had no tolerance for the foolishness?
The reason I'm laughing is because I didn't have any better since to have no tolerance either. At 13, working in a hot sweet potato field, and I looked around one day. I said, something not right about this picture.
Okay.
Mother, how much did you get paid on a Friday? And she said $40. It was still not too many years post slavery.
Yes.
And why did I only get 20? She said, because you're a kid. I said, that's not fair.
Yeah.
I work hard as the adults. And my mother was a very wise lady. She said, well, write him a letter. And that's when I wrote my first letter to the tall white man who owned the field. And the field workers were looking at me and wondering what's going to happen now. I was shaking in my knees a little bit, but I handed Mr. John Hughes my letter, and he read it and he laughed. And the next Friday, I got paid what the adults got paid. Now we're still today talking about equal pay for equal work.
Yes.
What it says to them about them is that they are not open to change. They want to stay stuck on STUPID. They want to stay in that frame of mind rather than to grow in grace and to allow God to heal them. The reason I told the lady I forgave her who discriminated against me is because I know that forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. Some of them just don't know. They have been brainwashed and trainwashed to believe these the false ideas. And it's sad. It really is sad. I met a lady, I'm in Mississippi right now where I was born.
Okay.
For eyes but cannot see, of course. MISSI, if you don't get it. Stay before eyes but cannot see. And I was sitting at Toyota because I needed to have some work done on my car. And this white lady came up over and she stood over me and she said, and I can kind of talk like him, oh, you are so pretty. The cute dress and I just admire you. And I was like, oh Lord, is she not used to seeing Black people? What is going on? Because I don't feel that pretty this morning. I got up early and she said, it's good to see somebody like you. And I was like, what does she mean? So just rather than being sarcastic with her. I said, you're beautiful also, and it's good to see you too.
I feel you. Listen. I hear you very loudly. It's sadly, Miss Taylor, we have people, and I may have told you this a year or so ago. I call them my less melanated brothers and sisters, and sadly, I'll be honest with you. You're kind because I think they do understand. But it benefits them not to change.
Well, we see,
and I understand clearly as a human being is that there are undesirable people regardless of race, creed, or color. I understand that clearly. But unfortunately, it seems to only be people that look like you and I that gets painted with this broad brush. We can't be individuals. We have to be painted with this broad brush.
Well, okay, this lady felt superior to me.
Yes.
I felt that it was a compliment to me
yes.
for her to I look pretty because
yes.
I don't know what she expected. I don't know what is not pretty to her.
Yes.
It's good to see somebody like you, and I'm thinking, so she was feeling superior.
Yes.
And she was doing me a favor to come and say something kind to me. I guess I don't know.
Hey, listen, I'm receiving what you're sharing. And our audience is too, because you got a lot of thumbs. You have a lot of thumbs going up. Well, listen, I don't want to keep you all day, but I have to ask you this. And actually, I was thinking about this from church yesterday. I would often hear the song, and I really want your opinion, Amazing Grace.
Oh.
But the history behind the song, and you see our less melanated brothers and sisters, they can sing that song so loudly and so proudly. And I haven't asked them, but I want to ask them, do you understand why that song came about?
Yes, I do understand the song. I studied the history of that song.
Oh, not you. I'm talking about my less melanated brothers. Please continue.
Oh, I see what you're saying. When I was asked to sing the national anthem for the San Francisco Giants, I also studied that song.
Okay.
And I studied the song and the musician so that I could try and do my best, because I never sang before that many people before. But
congratulations.
The music that we sing is the music that has been handed down to us. It is our responsibility to interpret music. I am a songwriter, and I have recorded 2 CDs. I wrote all of the music. It's my story. So I don't expect everyone to sing my song and to deliver that song the way I deliver it, because it's based on my story.
Yes.
I do songs also, and I would change the words because I like the music, and I would make it my song. So most of us, we were told not to read, and we didn't teach our children to appreciate reading. And so we take whatever is given to us on the plate. If it's pork and beans or whatever, we just take it and we just eat it and we receive it. Yes. We must be very careful what we allow into our ear gate and our eye gate, and to research and find out, why are we saying this? Why are we singing this song?
Yes, because that has always been my question, Ms. Taylor, is that and listening and studying the history of the song, and I'm saying, this is a song of repentance. And I see all of these less melanated people who are flying Confederate flags and still being as racist as they've ever been, and they try to hang their hat on this song. It's like, you don't even know what you're singing.
It is the most popular song sang on the Sunday.
Absolutely.
Everybody knows Amazing Grace. When I was asked to sing for any audience, if I can do Amazing Grace, I'm good. I can pass the test.
Yes.
Because that song, they don't understand that it was written by a guy who was a slave trader, right?
Yes. And that is one of my when I do shows like this and we talk to our mothers, because we know our mothers are our primary, even the specialist, said that the most educated children are the one that have the most educated mothers. So yes, yes, that's a matter of documented research, and it talks about that, and that's why a lot of times when I'm talking to my mothers, I like to ask specific questions of the mothers, because too many times, even though not that we are not intelligent as men, too many times, and I'll say this, and I'm going to make some brothers mad. If you're not talking about sports, or you're not talking about having a beer, and let me just be very honest, you're not talking about chasing women, you lose most of them.
Yes, yes. Getting back to Amazing Grace, did you know also that the music of that song was by a slave? They took the music that the slaves, the humming of it, the melody, and he created the music, but
Yes.
not. So I didn't know if you
No, no, no,
knew
no,
that.
no, no, no. Go ahead. I did not. I did not.
Yeah, as the slaves were so he took that melody and added lyrics to it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
He may have gotten 100% credit, like a lot of people in America receive 100% credit for songs and music, but they did not create.
Absolutely.
But I was told that this was created by the slaves. The music was created by the slaves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So,
yes.
Go ahead.
The educate. I wanted my children to be able to communicate. So every Friday after work, we sat down. We had a family meeting, and they were thinkers. They were very sharp, and they were trying to figure this system out. Like they were trying to figure out. They asked me one day if we could have a meeting. Mom, why is your skin light and dad's skin light, but our skin is dark? Mom, we've been thinking. We think we were adopted. I'm like, no, we're not. Adopted. Mom, you can tell us the truth. You can tell us the truth. It's really hard on us in America, especially our children, when they continue to teach this racism stuff.
Yes.
It should just be thrown out of the window, out of the educational system. And we know that there is no one size fits all educational system. However, we do need to include African American history in every school.
Yes.
In public.
Yes. And that was why I wanted to ask that question about the 1619 project, and the Lincoln Project, and others, because I just as a person, Miss Taylor, I have difficulty, even now as an old man. I have difficulty understanding how people can just willfully and wantonly try to pretend that these atrocities did not happen, that people are affected to this very day by the atrocities that did take place. And even if it's not Melvin as an individual, it's a cousin, great grandparents, ancestors, uncles, aunts, etc. So I've always wondered about that. And I want to just ask this question before I'll stop bombarding you with questions. As a mother, when you and I'm listening to hanging on to every word you're saying, how inquisitive your kids were, and even to the point of questioning that they were more melanated than you and your husband, etc. And said and you having to do the DNA thing, and how the process goes down through generations. So even when you are instructing your children, do you find, or did you find, that they were more accepting, or it raised more questions, or they just kind of shrugged their shoulders?
No, my boys were more accepting. They, as I told you, I found writings where they were very proud of who they had become, knowing that they were special. If you look at your hands, we are all fearfully and wonderfully made. There is no big eyes and little U's in the sight of God. We are all His special children, His little special flowers from the same garden. And I believe that parents need to help their children with their self-esteem and to let them know that it doesn't matter what color you are, how tall or how short, that you're just special. You're fearfully, you're wonderfully made, and that there is only one person in this world like you, and you can make a difference. You can be the president of the United States or the president of your class or whatever it is you want to be, you can be. And not to get caught up into what society thinks. I don't watch TV very much, very seldom, maybe 1% of my time, because you have to be careful what is being going through your eye gate and your ear gate. I do not allow my children to watch everything on TV. That's I call it the television, but we call our television show Television of Hope, Voices of Gospel Television of Hope, before it became the Lorrain Taylor Show. Because wanted to make sure they are not being indoctrinated through the television and at school. And now we have the tablets and we have the iPhones, and the kids are just being left alone to find their way on the World Wide Web. I think as mothers and as parents, we have to take control and love our children, even if it's called tough love, and to make sure we are monitoring what they are receiving. And have that open conversation, not texting, but have a family meeting every Friday or every Saturday without the cell phones and talk eye to eye and find out what is going on in your child's head. You just don't know what that child heard last week. You
Absolutely.
Just never...
Wow. Absolutely. Listen, one final question. I promise I'm going to let you go. Before we got on air, you mentioned briefly about the last two young men being George Floyd and Ty. I think it was Ty. I'm not exactly sure his last name.
For his mama.
Yes. Now, as a mom, because I certainly can't address that, wouldn't even try as a knucklehead. But as a mom, what the impact now for and you've been through this, unfortunately, with your twin sons.
Yes.
With George Floyd's mom already gone to her final rest, but the other young man's mom is still here. Can you kind of explain to us and I know this is a crazy question. I mean, I know there's a lot of pain, but can you kind of share with us what is that feeling is like, even initially, to have to know that your child was in a position where if only you could have gotten to they may feel like if only I just could have been close to mama, even if somebody did hurt me. Can you kind of share a little bit as a mom?
Oh my God, just to think about that, it saddens me deeply. I did not watch that video because I didn't think I was strong enough. I did watch the funeral.
Yeah.
It's not, as a mother, as a nurturer, as we are mama bears. We love our children. And I thought also, I could have just been there for my sons. No doubt they were asking for me too, because they knew that their father was not in their lives and that he didn't really care. I don't know if that was the case with this last case or with George Floyd, but I do know that we as mothers, we're going to make sure our children are sheltered. We're going to make sure they're fed, and we're going to make sure, I don't know what it is. We take care of our babies. We love our babies.
Yes.
Son is 43 years old, and I asked him the other day, how's my baby? I was referring to my grandbaby. Mama, I'm doing fine. Your
baby. he answered for himself.
Yeah, they're our babies forever. And so that's how I'm sure he felt, that I'm my mama's baby. No matter how good or how bad society may say that I am, I'm still in my mother's heart forever. And I do pray for those mothers who have lost their children to violence. And if there is anything we can do here at 1,000 Mothers to prevent violence besides pray, we try and provide practical services. We go beyond praying, because prayer plus action speaks louder than words. That's what I'm trying to say. We need to hold space for those families. Let them know that it's okay when you're not okay. It's going to hurt. It's going to take time to process such a loss. And my heart goes out to every family, every mother, every father. We have fathers in our group, but their reaction is a little different from the mothers.
That's interesting. That last thing you said to me is really interesting, that the dad's reactions are a little different from the mothers. And
I don't know if it's because they trying to be macho and don't want to cry, but our mothers, we cry together, we scream together, we pray together. Sometimes we'll laugh, we'll find something to laugh about. But we have the freedom to grieve at our own pace and in our own way. We don't judge one another. But men are often judged if they shed a tear that they are weak.
very
but
true.
I think fathers also, go ahead and shed your tears. It's okay that you're not okay. That was your baby too.
Very true. Very true. So listen, Ms. Taylor, it's been wonderful. And if you'd like to share more information with us as to how they might be able to contact 1,000 Moms, or any parting words that you may have for our moms and our dads, feel free to share that at this time.
Yes, we do have a website at 1000mothers.org, 1000mothers.org. You can go and you can write me a letter if you like. We don't worry about money, but if some people want to give, if that's something that you can do cheerfully and you're able to do so, we do receive donations, and we use our donations for the purpose intended, and that is to help another mother. Sometimes I'll get a call and the mother just need a room for a night out of her neighborhood where her child was lost, or two, or may need some food. They may need whatever. We don't ask, let me see your bank account or anything of that nature. I do pray, and I ask the Holy Spirit to direct my path and to guide me how to minister to each family or each mother or father that calls. And just know that you are loved. You're loved and you're special, and don't be so hard on yourself. Grief is a process. It's going to take time, but just know that according to the scripture, Jesus said he would never leave nor forsake you, that you are not alone.
Well, thank you so very much for that. Now, will you share the address one more time, please, so that the contact information?
1000mothers.org, and we're also on Facebook. If you just Google 1000 Mothers, you'll run into some news articles, and you'll see what we're doing out there to try and make a difference. And we thank all of the nonprofit organizations. We thank you, Melvin, for your communication and what you're doing to help our community to prosper and to thrive.
Listen, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. And Ms. Lorrain Taylor, we do appreciate you, and we're so happy that you decided to come and help us out and talk to our moms. And we want to say to our audience again, guys, feel free. You need to get that book, Mothers and Their Men, an introspective look at mothers and sons. It was initially saying mothers and their sons, and I had people telling me, Ms. Taylor, that they thought it was a book telling mothers how to rear their sons. And I said, no, quite the contrary. It's just about mothers and interaction with children, et cetera, et cetera. So we just want our audience to know that you can get it from Amazon. You can get it at the Nobody Asked Me Guys show at gmail.com. So again, we appreciate you being here. This has been the Nobody Asked Me Guys show. Guys, we want you to support 1,000 mothers. With here with us today is the CEO and founder, Ms. Lorrain Taylor. So
1,000 Mothers to prevent violence. And we said to prevent violence because that's what we believe, that an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure.
Fantastic. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Now, we're here each Tuesday. Most of my audience know that we used to be on Fridays, and we transitioned to Tuesdays, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. Next week, we will be finishing up our meeting with moms, and we'll be moving on to talk about, we'll talk a little politics mixed with a little sports, etc. So have a great and blessed evening. Ms. Taylor, thank you so very much. And please join us again.
Thank you. God bless you.